So, I'm teaching a master's level course this semester called Advances in Teaching. And it got me thinking, what are advances in teaching? It seems like this is something any educator should be able to answer, but I'm not sure if I can. Let's start by considering the words in the phrase. Advances means to cause to move forward, or what seems like a more relevant definition here is to make progress, improve. For me, these definitions require some context. Who determines what it means to move forward? Considering the accountability reform rhetoric and policy that has moved forward since the 1980s, advances could easily just mean better test scores. And by test scores, I often mean standardized test scores. I would not consider better test scores an advance in teaching because too often tests don't really show that students are gaining meaningful knowledge or skills. It just shows that, well, they're good at taking tests. Their applicability beyond tests and schools is questionable. So I prefer thinking of advances as improvements. And when I think of improving teaching, I immediately start imagining being a better teacher for my students. So instead of thinking of some kind of generalizable advancement that benefits all students in the same way, I'm going to think of advances as approaches that can help educators improve their teaching for the diversity of students in their classrooms. Next, so these advances or improvements are happening in teaching. Teaching, not learning. This this class is not called supporting learning or supporting learners, but advancing teaching. But we need to define learning before we can get to teaching, right? For over a century, educational scholars have regularly defined learning as being relational and contextual. In other words, students have to feel like what they are doing is worthwhile and connects to who they are. If teachers design lessons or learning spaces in ways that only reflects their own sociocultural worldview, then students can reject the lessons. Many researchers and scholars have argued that curriculum must be not only culturally relevant and responsive to them, their language, and their ways of being, but it must also sustain those funds of knowledge they and their communities bring into the classroom. This has been a particularly important point as the teaching profession is disproportionately dominated by white monolingual teachers. So educators should seek to develop curriculum that is both important to the students in their classroom and important to society. Thus, any understanding of learning requires considering the direction of that learning. It's not just that students may find a lesson irrelevant, boring, disrespectful, or even too easy, but that learning can be miseducational. Differentiating between what is educational and what is miseducational requires teachers to attend to where learning is going. Direction. If students learn to harm someone else or that they learn that only their history and perspectives matter, then maybe that lesson should be considered miseducational in a multicultural society that needs citizens who care about equity and justice for all. So, in summary, when I think about advances in teaching, I think about approaches and ideas that can help educators improve learning for students in their classroom. So, what are those ideas? I guess that's what I'm going to try to figure out in this course I'm teaching. What do advances in teaching look like in your classroom? Thanks for watching.